Welcome to the main take. I'm Evan here with Chris. Today's a sad day, Chris. I'm a little sad.
Yeah, man. Well, welcome to the club. All right, we got knocked out. My favorite team got knocked out in the first round. A little disclaimer. All right, there was a comment that may or may not have come up about the fact that I had spoken like a Lakers fan while wearing a Cowboys hoodie, and that was hilarious. That was effing hilarious. Bar for bar was the words that were said. Look, guys, I don't get to choose the team my dad likes, Like, these are the teams I grew up loving because my dad liked them. Now, if you want to claim that my dad is a late 80s, early 90s sports bandwagon fan, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the Cowboys were good. The Lakers were still the Lakers, so I don't get to choose the teams that my dad likes. Those are my teams. That's how that goes. It's the same thing for you. I mean, you live in New England.
Yeah, New England all the way through.
But if you grew up and your dad was a Packers fan,
probably
you would be a Packers fan.
Yeah.
You grow up thinking those teams are cool. Yeah, really bad day to be a Celtics fan, though.
It's unfortunate.
What do you think?
Bad couple of weeks.
Bad couple days. Tatum with the Achilles tear, man.
That changes everything.
That does.
The window for championships now are, kind of closed for this team. Like he might come back next year.
Yeah, it's pretty late in the season.
So it's an Achilles is typically a 6 to 9 month healing process. Yeah. That's not like starting like playing yet or not. So so he's gonna say he comes back in 9 months. What is it? May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so you're looking at like January, February.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to
No, you're good, man. Hey, it's 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So I mean, and then he needs to ramp up minutes. So I mean, realistically, maybe playoffs.
Maybe
because they should still be in the playoffs based off they still have a good team. I mean, as we saw for Game 5, they could still compete. But yeah, no, I mean, hey, so I want to start. Props to the Knicks. All right, I'm not gonna be a Celtic like the typical New England fan. They deserve the win for the series. They played better. I mean, that is just what it is. Celtics came in as the NBA champions and were supposed to win, and they didn't.
They didn't. You're right.
That's sports.
I'm excited. I talk about Jalen Brunson. We've talked about the Knicks and the Celtics a lot over the last few episodes, and
yeah,
I in particular have caught a lot of flack online for talking good about Jalen Brunson. I get a lot of comments about how he sucks. I like him.
Yeah,
I like the Knicks.
I think he's a very good offensive player.
Yeah.
I think that he makes really well-timed shots. I don't like his drawing fouls, and I don't like his attitude,
sure.
right? And this was seen after Game 5 when he fouled out. He was asked about the fouls, and how he fouled out, and I think he had almost 5 in one quarter, and he pretty much gave an attitude. He's like, I don't know what you want me to say to that, and all this stuff. It's like, all right, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can draw fouls, but you need to be okay when other people draw fouls on you. Or you can admit that you're flopping and then claim that they're flopping. But you can't draw fouls and then get mad when it happens to you.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a... Like, come on, man. Like, Jalen Brunson, if you watch this, like, serious. like, seriously, though. Like, and I get it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to foul. No one wants to foul. And even when you foul, you're going to be like, I don't think I fouled. That's just the normal reaction. But, it's a literal part of his game. It's what he's known for. Now he's becoming like a James Harden. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's just frustrating to me. Like, you can't go into press conferences like that. That irritates me, I think, more than the fouling part.
Yeah, well, I know. Like, we have fun. We have fun on here. We kind of go back and forth about it, but I don't say it strictly out of rage bait. Unfortunately, that's a part of the game now. defense is a lot looser. I know we talked a little bit last night about how it seems that the refs will have been letting teams play harder this postseason, and then there's some pretty soft calls every once in a while. You're kind of be like, okay, well, if that's a foul, how was that not a foul? But you're talking some of the most prolific scorers. Most of the most prolific scorers are really good at what you would term as flopping.
Yeah.
And get into the line. Like, it's a part of the game. Like,
Did you see Jamal Murray?
I did
So
not.
there's a clip of him online. Last game, Shea went into the lane. I say no contact. Was there like a slight bump? Maybe. But for the reaction, there was no contact. So he goes up for a shot, right? And then just absolutely flails to the ground and like spazzes out pretty much. And it's like they call it a foul. And Murray gets mad. So he's walking back. They're about to do foul shots. And Murray's like in the middle of the lane going like next to Shea. And it's like, but you know what? These players are getting frustrated. They can't play defense. You know why the defense is so relaxed is because you can't play defense because that happens.
No,
You get players who they'll just fall down, and it's just like
my argument, like my stance on it, isn't I like when players flop. I don't think that that's necessarily great for the game, or at least the intensity of the game. However, there's a basis of acceptance of the fact, like, this is a part of the game now, and people that are good at it are going to be good players because they're shooting 2 shots from the free throw line. So I don't like flopping. I don't think that it's good for the game. I just have a general level of acceptance that all your great players are going to be good at it now. Not 20 years ago, not 30 years ago.
right.
30 years ago, if you flopped on the ground, you're starting a fist fight if Ron Artest is in the building. But now it's just a part of the game. It's all sports evolve.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate.
It is.
I wonder if you can go through the season and take out every point that Shea egregiously flopped on, how many points he would have averaged in a game.
Yeah, and then you'd have to do that for every other player in the league.
It's true.
But that is an interesting.
I mean,
like, how many of this? I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you want to call it a skill. I think there are people that are good at flopping, good at drawing fouls, and there are people that are bad at it. So in some ways it would be a skill. I wonder how many points came from this skill alone. How many? What did Shea average this year? Like 30, 31?
it was like 31.
Right? And you could say this about any player. You could say this about LeBron's average. You could say this about, Jalen Brunson's average. How many of those points came from this ability to get fouls when you hit the ground?
It says 32.
32.
32.7.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Wow. Sometimes, man, you just get 33 points a game is crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to something we were talking about earlier. He is like the scoring option on the Thunder. They have a good defensive team, a lot of defensive pieces, and they do have offensive pieces too. But the offense runs through him.
Yeah.
And the scoring burden is on him. If he doesn't have a good game, probably not going to win. Him and Chet. I don't even know what Chet's been hurt, so you can't really pull from this season for him. And that actually is a great point to talk about. Game 7 tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do you think? And I know we discussed it a little bit earlier, but what do you think the outcome is going to be for that?
I don't know. I feel like throughout the entirety of this Nuggets Thunder series, the Nuggets have made me look like an idiot. As I always say, like, look, I know the Nuggets are good, and I do believe that, and I really hope that this doesn't make me look like an even bigger idiot. I think whoever wins Game 7 tomorrow is probably the favorite to win. Is it tomorrow or tonight? I'm sorry.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
right. Who is probably the favorite to win the championship. We're talking about the two best teams left in the playoffs, in my opinion. But every time I'm like, I just don't, I can't even use the fact that they had the coaching change, the coaching troubles early on, because every time I use that, Nikola Jokic goes out, drops a triple-double, and wins the game. I can't use that as an argument anymore. But as I said earlier, I find it very hard to bet against the home team in a Game 7. There are exceptions. LeBron. 2016. I couldn't have been the only person. Now, again, I was even younger than I am now. I was 14, 15 years old. It was that finals was like a week before my birthday, so I was 13 maybe. But come Game 7, after coming back down 3-1, I feel like there was a consensus understanding, at least in the room I was in watching, that the Cavaliers were going to win the game. And that momentum is such a big thing. And although the Nuggets won the last game, the way that they've been trading, they've been trading wins back and forth. Who really has the momentum? And if momentum is such a big factor, okay, the Nuggets just won Game 6. The Nuggets also won Game 6 at home. How much does that play into the momentum? And it is very, very interesting to see. But again, home team, Game 7, you just got to do it. The MVP.
Yeah, I think
maybe Jokic should be MVP. I don't disagree with that statement. You said that earlier. I don't disagree with it.
I mean, you average a triple-double as a center.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know he's
been the best player in the league for 5 years.
Right, and I think that has something to do with it. You have voters fatigue. They're gonna be like, well, he's won it so much. It's like, well, it's supposed to be the best player in that vacuum of a year. It doesn't matter if they've won it before, because you're not counting it off of last year's.
Yeah.
Last year's doesn't matter. We're talking about this year.
I think
the hypothetical is cool though, right? Because you always have these situations where you're like, well, I mean, if this person was against this person and da-da-da. Well, the two finalists are playing each other in a Game 7 in the playoffs.
That happened last year in the NFL too, with the Bills and the Ravens.
Yes, yep.
Now, I know the voting, I'm sure the NBA is the same way. The voting's done before the playoffs. I'm definitely more in touch with baseball and football than I am basketball. But, you kind of had again, we're talking about LeBron and just a general feeling that whoever won that game was the MVP.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, who's the rightful MVP here.
Right. And so it'll be interesting.
You got to think, like, what if the positions were changed, let's not even talk about, right? A lot of people like to bring up the argument, how good would the team be if that person wasn't on it? How good would these teams be if Shea was on the Nuggets and Jokic was on the Thunder? Who would have the better team? You could argue, I would argue that the Thunder would have the better team with Jokic, right? Jokic has, again, been the best player in the league for 5 years.
Well, and I think
they're more equipped to have a center than the Nuggets are to have a guard. They have a guard. Not saying that Shea isn't, somewhat deserving. Yeah, of course Shea's deserving of this accolade. Somewhat isn't even the right word. But when you are the best player in the league for 5 years, I don't even think the year he lost to Joel Embiid. I don't think Joel Embiid was the MVP that year. I think Nikola Jokic was the MVP. That was egregious. At least this, really bad. I feel like this time there's an argument. You could argue for Shea. Right.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Okay. All right. This might actually change your opinion, because this is crazy. So Shea, for the 2024 to 2025 season, averaged 32.7 points. Insane. 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists on 51.9% shooting. Jokic, I'm going to start here. I'm going to let you guess the points, because I think it'll be surprising. 12.7 rebounds, 10.2 assists, 57.6% shooting. How many points did he average?
26.
29.6.
Oh, my.
This dude was third in points.
That's
third
averaging...
in rebounds, second in assists, and ninth in field goal shooting.
If you go back and you take like 3 or 4 games and you give him, 5 or 6 extra points, he's averaging a 30-point triple-double. Like that.
30. Can we stop and realize, like, we're talking about a center out, almost having a 30-point triple-double season. Not a 30-point triple-double game. No. This dude does this through the course of the season.
Yeah.
Look.
He's special.
Look, Shea, congratulations, man. You got the 32.7, points per game. Averaging is crazy throughout a season. But I'm sorry. This man averaged a triple-double, was only averaging 2-3 points less than Shea a game, and averaged what was it? 7.7 more rebounds than him, and 4 more assists than him.
Right. Yeah.
On better shooting.
Well, to be clear, as of May 17th at 6:59 a.m.
That bit's never gonna go away.
they still haven't announced who the MVP is. I think there's a general safe assumption that Shea's gonna win it.
Well, that's
I think that like that's the assumption there, but
right.
We don't know.
It needs to be Jokic.
It could be Jokic. It probably will be Shea.
29 points as a center throughout a season with a triple-double.
I mean,
it has to be.
It's got to be, right?
It has to be.
We'll see. But
yeah, no, I'm taking Nuggets.
That's fair.
I was rolling with them. I got to continue.
You got to keep rolling with them. In that case, I got to keep rolling with the Thunder.
Yeah, fair enough.
I am excited. So this is another thing we talked about. I feel like ever since LeBron went to Miami, it's just been like the same teams, right? Like you had a few years where like the Bucks and the Suns went to the finals. That was cool. You never really see different teams making it to the final. The Nuggets have been, making it to a lot of conference finals and finals. The Warriors, over the course of the last 10 years, the Celtics, they constantly, I feel like, and then of course when LeBron was in Miami, it was Miami and the Spurs, and the Thunder were making it to a lot of conference finals, and you never really see new teams, and the fact that we have the Pacers and the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. That excites me, and the fan in me wants to see the Thunder go because the Nuggets have been here the last few years, and it would be a really interesting thing to see. Well, here's these teams that, since 2016, when I think that was the last time the Thunder were in the conference finals, right? That was the year they went up 3-1 and then lost to the Warriors.
Yes, I think so.
Right, unless I'm over, again, more football and baseball up here, but unless I'm missing something,
no, Either 2016 or 2015, but I think it was 2016.
So, okay, like we're about to see we could see something different, and I mean, we still could, technically, if the Nuggets win and the Timberwolves then go on to win, it's pretty exciting. I'm very excited to see how it shakes out for sure.
I'd like the Nuggets win so Russ can get his ring. I think that would be cool.
And I agree. I'd love to see Russell Westbrook.
And then he should retire. He should be done. He should get his ring and retire.
Hey, he should.
And end on top, man.
I don't know, man. Some of my favorite players of all time never get their ring, and I think that's what I like so much about them. Like, I'm a big Derrick Rose guy. I love Derrick Rose.
Yeah, he would have gotten one, though, if he didn't get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, the
no doubt in my mind that man would have won.
Well, you got to think,
point.
the Bulls were competing before he tore his ACL. Like Joakim Noah at one point was a really good player. In the league. Carlos Boozer at one point was a really good player in the league. They still had Jimmy Butler too. They just drafted Jimmy Butler, I think a few years after he tore his ACL, but I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. But a lot of those guys that don't have rings, that's kind of what you find endearing about them, right? Like, I like the Barry Bonds story. Like, okay, steroids, yada, 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 whatever. I'm talking about the story. I'm talking about one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And again, a lot of people, and this splits the baseball community, by the way, about the steroid era. A lot of people think that he got what he deserved. A lot of people like the stance of, whatever. Like, it wasn't a banned, it was illegal in the United States. It wasn't a banned substance in the MLB. You know, a lot of people were taking them. So I am one of those guys that I'm like, whatever, dude. He's the all-time home run leader. How is he? You know. Anyway, the point is the story. Barry Bonds, one of the greatest to ever play the game, regardless of where your debate is with the steroids. Statistically, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Never won a World Series. And there's almost something so endearing about the athlete or the man that has all the talent in the world but can never ever grab the brass ring. You know, there's something just so endearing. It makes them feel more human. You know, that's like I get a lot of connection to those players, right? Like it makes them feel more like me. You know, like, oh yeah, that guy's really, 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 really good. But he was never good enough. He was never in the right situation. He was never, you know, he never went on a hot streak at the right time. And he was never able to get the one thing that he's been dreaming about since he was a kid. All these athletes, you know, it's not, oh, I just want to grow up and be in the NBA. I want to grow up, be in the NFL. No, I want to grow up and win the Super Bowl. I want to grow up and win the finals, the World Series. You know, they've been dreaming about this since they were a kid. Never got it. Ken Griffey Jr. never got it. You know, there's almost something so endearing about that, and I love that. I love that.
What's the humanity of it? Right? You can be the best, and you can be the greatest, and still the greatest for a period of time, and still not win. You know, win it all. And I think that's a human aspect of it.
I love it. So
wanted to touch on our main guy. We didn't get to record until now, but Cooper Flagg.
Yeah. Dallas Maverick? More than likely.
More than likely. I don't see them trading the pick.
I don't see Cooper Flagg not going number one.
No.
As the dog.
No, he averaged 19.2, 7.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists on 48% shooting for this college season. As a he was 17 through half of it. So I mean the dude's insane. It's crazy. I would be interested to see, and I know we won't get to see this happen just because it's behind closed doors, but I wonder what people are offering Nico. And this is a great and a realistic question. Nico did trade Luka this year. So you're talking about a GM who just traded one of the top 3 offensive players currently in the league.
In a top, I don't want to throw a number on there, but a very top and elite scorer of all time.
Yeah. The Luka's insane, and he traded him. So, you know, I wonder if you're GMs out there and you want the number 1 pick. I wonder if, that kind of move made by Nico is kind of like, all right, maybe this guy might be open to some conversations.
Yeah, I think if you're Nico Harrison, that conversations can't really be happening. You know, what they had a 1.4% chance of getting the number 1 pick, or like a 1.7 or something like that. It was
1.8.
Yeah, 1.8. It was extremely low, and they jump up to the number 1 spot. Look, it's a sign. It is a sign, man. You made a mistake. You traded Luka. In the basketball world, and I'm not saying it's rigged, but I'm saying like the cosmic basketball world is handing you this on a silver platter and said, look, you messed up, and we're going to give you another one. Okay? You can't be having those conversations. It's a sign. You're like, yeah, you messed up, but that's okay. You know? If they trade that pick, the fans in Dallas are gonna lose their minds. You traded Luka Doncic, and now you're about to trade away the number 1 pick. You can't do that.
No.
It's not.
I don't
happen.
think he's going to. But I think that
I wonder if there are any conversations, like any serious conversations.
There's going to be people who want to have serious conversations. Whether or not they have them is, Nico allows. It's one thing.
Yeah, I want to have a serious conversation too. I'll trade for the number 1 overall pick.
Like,
I'll offer you my Gatorade.
I will offer you my Gatorade. There was a meme out there that said Lakers got back on the phone with Nico, and they're like, "Yo, Nico, we got we got Gabe Vincent. He has a finals experience. Go for a 1-for-1 for this. I think it'd be a good idea." It'd be like, and he's like, "Send me the papers.
I'm in.
That's
crazy.
I mean, actually, don't give me Gabe Vincent. I just want to give you Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I will give you This man. And cash considerations.
Cash consideration. Oh, that's great.
Oh man.
So yeah, I think they'll hold on to it. No, it is interesting. Giannis, there's trade talks with Giannis. When you look at the window for the players currently in the Mavs, they're older, right? You got Anthony Davis, who's getting older, Kyrie, who's getting older,
Klay
who's coming
Thompson.
off an injury,
Yeah.
Klay Thompson. So you do have an older group. I would almost say that if you could guarantee a win in the next 2 years or multiple, trading for like a Giannis wouldn't necessarily be awful. And that's just my opinion. I'm gonna catch slack for
and
that,
that's sports, right? Your goal is to go out there and win championships. You trade away. If I'm the Mavs, right, and there was a finals ring guaranteed on the other side of this trade, I'm taking that trade.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Cooper Flag, for multiple reasons. I think he's a great player. Obviously, he was the top player in college last year. He's from Maine. That's really cool. But you can never really know how these guys shake out until they shake out. If you could take a guarantee over a draft pick, yeah, of course, but you can't.
yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. It's not guaranteed. But let's say you add Giannis to that current Mavs team.
Who's stopping them?
I don't think anyone is.
Right?
So,
but you got to think about the cap situation there too. Money.
That is true.
Money talks.
Yeah, and so, but that's okay. At this point in the current NBA, if you want to win champions, if you want to win championships, I think that you need to be willing to shell out, through that, next apron, through those taxes, and just pay them. It's the cost of winning. I mean, look at the Celtics. They got knocked out this year, but last year, it wasn't a question. It wasn't a question during the entire playoffs, and it's because they were willing to pay. This is how it works. So I'm excited to see where Flag goes. Mavs.
We mean after he gets drafted.
So
see how it turns out. I get you.
And I'm happy for him. Out of all the teams he could have ended up on, this is by far the best situation. The dude's going to be in playoff contention next year.
Yeah. No, you couldn't ask for
as a number one pick. That's
he couldn't ask for a better situation to go in. Well, I'm sure he could have, but you couldn't ask for out of the teams in the lottery. There's not many teams that are in a better place than the Mavs.
No. The only reason why they were there is because of injuries.
Injuries, yeah. Yeah, that was a playoff team. Even after the Doncic trade, that was a playoff team.
Yeah. Spurs lucked out too. Spurs got second.
Spurs would have been a good spot for him too.
Yeah. No, that team's
good at developing talent.
They have a second and a 14th. They have 2 picks in the top 15. So
that's crazy.
They're building well.
Good for them. Greg Popovich, new basketball president there in San Antonio.
Is he the basketball president?
Yeah.
I know because he couldn't. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunate to lose him as a coach, but
I mean he's up there, man. I'm surprised he didn't just retire.
Yeah, well, he had a stroke, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, pivoting to our other topic for today. We had a good talk about this last night. We had a good talk. A little aggressive, and I apologize, by the way. I did get a little aggressive.
I like it.
I did. Brock Purdy contract extension for the San Francisco 49ers. 23-13 record. And this is kind of what I've settled on, right? I don't think that many people... Now, did I say last night that if you're a premier quarterback in the league, it, especially in his situation, and yes, I do think he was in a good situation. You got George Kittle, CMC, who was hurt last year, but that first year on the Niners, he wasn't. He played. Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Jawan Jennings, and then on defense, you got Bosa and you got, Fred Warner. You have all of you. He's in a good situation. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. You are in a good situation, and if you are a premier quarterback, it doesn't matter that CMC gets injured. It should, it does, it helps the team, it drops the team's performance drastically, but you have other weapons around you. Debo gets hurt. Yeah, that stinks. However, Jordan Mason had a really good season last year. When he played, he had almost 1,000 yards rushing. You still have George Kittle on the field. If Debo's out, you have Brandon Ayuk and Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings out, you still have Brandon Ayuk out there, and Debo. It seemed like the pieces were always there, where maybe everybody wasn't on the field, but there was enough people on the field to go out and win games. And you went 6-9 as the starter, and everybody's gonna have a bad year. At the end of the day, he's been to the conference finals twice. He's won one of them. I do think he deserved the extension. I just think I have a list of people that are making either the same amount or less money than him that I would prefer to have. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad move on the Niners' part. I mean, you just signed a guy, locked him down. He brought you to a Super Bowl a few years ago. As the head guy. So
Yeah, I mean, I hear the system argument.
I'm not saying he's a system quarterback.
I know, but what I'm saying is that he was put into a good,
inherited a really good
situation,
yes.
right? So, I think that, and I said this before, it's hard to compare in situations like that because, if Max Verstappen, we don't know what he would have been like on a team that he's not on because he wasn't. And, I've always kind of felt bad for faulting a quarterback because they've been on a successful team, and they've done well. And it's like, well, it's just because of the team they were on. It helped them. But, like, what were they supposed to do? Nah, man, I don't want to play on this team. I don't want to play on this team. Put me on the Jets. Yeah. Like, what do you, like, come on.
Well, and I'm not a big fan of the like, I do think he inherited a good situation. I think that to sit there and say that is false is just a complete and utter lie. I don't think that, and even if the consensus was Brock Purdy's a system quarterback, yeah, whatever. Brock Purdy's a system quarterback that went to the Super Bowl. I don't think the system quarterback so you found a good system to play in. Like, that's cool. You know who else found a really good system to play in and won 6 Super Bowls before he left and won a 7th one? Tom Brady. He was in a really good. Does that make him a system quarterback? No, but you found a really good system to play in, and what happened?
Yeah, developed him into what he is now.
Right.
Oh, was. Yeah. I mean, I do think his contract's a little high. $265 million for 5 years. 181 of that's guaranteed. So, what, you divide that by 5, that's like, it's like 30 mil a year. Yeah, a little bit more than 30 mil a year guaranteed.
Guaranteed, yeah.
So,
and this is something, I don't know if we've touched up on it before, but I know this is something that I've had conversations with other people about, is every single time a new big contract comes out, you're resetting the market, right? Shohei Ohtani and then Juan Soto now being the highest paid player in the MLB,
Right.
You got a guy like Dak Prescott who, let's be honest, Cowboys fans, I'm going to call out every single one of you as a Cowboys fan. If anybody on earth thinks Dak Prescott is worth $60 million a year, we can sit down and have a conversation, and I would love to tell you why you're wrong. All right, I wouldn't even, there's nothing you can say. 2 playoff wins, right? Like, but you have a guy like Dak Prescott who you can't argue exceptionally regular season. The stats are there. Outside of injuries, he's had exceptional regular seasons. But when he gets that contract, and now this is your floor, everybody else is going to be worth more money. Like, what's stopping a guy like Pat Mahomes other than the fact that he signed a 10-year contract, or a Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen going, yeah, but look at how much he's making.
Logic should stop.
And yeah, Josh Allen does make less money on a yearly basis than Dak Prescott. Does he have every single right, in my opinion, to look at the Bills front office and say, yeah, but look at what he's making. Pay me that. Pay me more. Is that necessarily something
I don't think he has the right to do it, because I think that the logical conclusion everyone besides Jerry Jones can come up with is that that's stupid. like there's one thing, like when a market resets, like there has to be some validity to what's being paid. I
Right.
feel like I don't think there's any validity to that. Like I
No,
don't think that's
but
a
at the
valid
end of the
thing.
day, there is at least two teams that would probably pay Josh Allen $60 million a year. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
probably.
and that happens. That's gonna happen when you have players like that. Like it happens in baseball. It happens in different positions in football. Is look at what he's making. Why am I not making that? If that guy makes that much money, shouldn't I make that much money? I'm better than that guy. Now, is there a Josh Allen who is making a lot of money? Like $57 or $56 million a year. Is that extra $4 million really anything to him? No. Does it kind of fill me up? Does it kind of make me happy to think that Josh Allen, who is one of the most deserving players to be the highest paid quarterback, say, no, I don't want to be the highest paid quarterback, or taking a contract because he, that's a little bit less than that. Maybe because he wants to help his team be in a better position. Maybe because he likes his team. He's loyal. He's not going to pull a Dak Prescott and be like, I'm not playing this year if you don't pay me. Brother, I'll pay you 2 nickels to shut your mouth, big guy. Okay, 2 playoff wins.
I'll pay you not to play.
I'll pay you not to play. You have been in the league just as long as Tony Romo was before you took over. You have the same amount of wins as he does. I think Tony Romo's a better quarterback. I like to say all the time that if that 2021 team, that 2021 team, or the 2019 team and the 2022 team, I'm sorry, if Tony Romo in his prime was the quarterback then, I'm not saying we would have won the Super Bowl, but man, oh man, he would have won more than 2 playoff games with those 2 teams. That's all I'm saying.
I had a buddy in middle school who argued with me every day when Dak Prescott came into the league about how he was going to be better than Tom Brady, and that they found the next best quarterback, and that Tom Brady was washed. This is 2016. Tom Brady was washed. I just sometimes when we talk about the Cowboys, I just like thinking about that and just being like,
I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys. I hate the fact that I love them so much. If I could do anything, you ever seen that movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey?
yes.
And he's like in the wall. He's like screaming at his daughter,
No,
"Don't let me leave!"
No, don't.
That would be me going back in time trying to stop my dad from picking the Cowboys. And he was a bandwagon fan. A quick story behind that: I'd always watched football, but he was finally like starting to kind of get into it a little bit, get on his own. And it was the first year out of the 2 back-to-back years that the Cowboys and Bills went to the Super Bowl. And he told me, bar for bar, he said, I decided I'm going to be a lifelong fan of whoever wins that Super Bowl. And it was the Cowboys. Look at me. Look at me. Look, I am in pain. It could have been the Bills, man. And I'm not saying that the Bills are going to win a Super Bowl. I think they will. Josh Allen's really good. I think they'll get over that hump. I would be a lot happier right now as a human being if I was a Bills fan, though. I'll say that. My dad would have been subjected to the next 20 years of absolute suckery, but I'd be happy.
Yeah, your current quality of life would
I
be
have
a little...
to hand this down to my grandkids. My kids and my grandkids will be Cowboys fans.
Yeah, so moving on to our back to the list.
Yeah.
All right, Brock Purdy, $53 million a year. Around 30 some odd of that is guaranteed.
Yeah.
I want you to... Okay, so what do you think that... what do you think that contract should be? And B, who's not getting paid that you think should be getting paid that instead of Purdy?
Okay.
And I know you made a list, so...
So I have a hard time, with somebody that's been in the league, 3 years. And again, he's done a lot in 3 years. Let's not sugarcoat that. But two conference finals, 2 NFC championship games. And then, a Super Bowl appearance. However, there are players that are either making the same amount of money, and by that I mean one player that's making the same amount of money, and lower that I personally, my personal opinion, I'm not clarifying that this is factual statement. You could have a different opinion. You could have a different opinion, and that's fine. This is my personal opinion. If I'm the 49ers and I'm in that situation, these are players that are making as much or less money than Brock Purdy that probably should be making more. And I do think Brock Purdy should be making like, I don't know, 30, 35 million a year. That's kind of where I have him. I have people on this list that are making less than $35 million a year too.
All right, let's hear
Number one. Yeah, I'll start at 10. We'll go the
10,
lowest contract. Yeah. I wish I would have wrote down the contract, but because this is now just popping in my head. Number 10 is kind of going to be controversial. Not as controversial as one that I have later on in a few picks. Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix had a fantastic season last year. I think, it as you see most quarterbacks do, and there's another rookie quarterback from last year that's on this list. You kind of start out and you're kind of like you're starting out in the game plan. You're in the game plan, and then at some point, it becomes your job. You got to go out there. You got to read the defenses. I like Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is explosive. And now, to clarify, I think one of the best intangibles you can have as a quarterback is arm strength. I'm a very big arm strength guy, and I put a lot of value on the ability to accurately deliver the deep ball. So that's where Bo Nix comes in. I think he's better equipped to do that. CJ Stroud.
I agree with CJ Stroud. I don't agree with Bo Nix. I think
you will. Come this time next year, we'll have the same conversation, and you will.
And you know what? After another year of experience, I could see that being more reasonable.
We're talking about investments. That was an argument you brought up yesterday. Right, you're investing in the age.
Right? No, sure. But we have to see where he goes. With this team, and I hope for the best for him, but I'm not putting him over Brock Purdy right now.
I would. Jaden Daniels.
I could see that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're not going to be okay with this one, and I mean this. I mean this with every heart of my soul. Like, if I'm building a team and I have to pick a quarterback, I'm picking this guy over Brock Purdy. We're talking age. We're talking development. I know Brock Purdy's just a few years older than him. Oh, man, you're going to hate me for this, and I mean it. Come after how he finished the season.
No, don't say it.
I'm going to say it. When he came back, brother was lighting the league on fire. Give me Bryce Young over Brock Purdy.
You're going to get flamed.
I can get flamed. That's fine. This is an opinion-based list, right? This isn't a factual statement-based list. If you want to sit there and say, yeah, well, Brock Purdy did this, this, and this. If you want to state facts, okay, you can state facts. This is an opinion-based list. The title of this list isn't 10 quarterbacks that are better than Brock Purdy. It's 10 quarterbacks I would rather pay. I would rather pay more than Brock Purdy.
I feel like that's criminal, though.
What do you mean? Okay, so here's my argument. Here's my argument, right? Now, Bryce Young only had 2,500 yards last season. That's true. After he got benched, he had a really horrific start to the season, right? If I am a team owner and I see how he came back and performed, almost beating the Chiefs, brother played like an animal his last few games. Here, I pulled up his stats because I knew you would make this argument, right? So he comes back from getting benched. He goes 24 for 37, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, right? Against the Broncos. And then against the Saints, he goes 16 for 26, 171, 1-1. And then this is where it really starts turning it on. Against the Giants, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. That's kind of weak. 126 yards, I mean. Against the Chiefs, 263 and a touchdown. Against the Buccaneers, 298 and a touchdown. Against Philly, 191 and a touchdown. Against Dallas, 219 and a touchdown and 2 picks. He also threw a pick against Philly. Against the Cardinals, 158 and 2 touchdowns. Against the Bucks, 203 and 2 touchdowns. Against the Falcons, 251 and 3 touchdowns. If I put in a window those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 weeks, and I put it against Brock Purdy's last 10 weeks on the 49ers, and I say, who's the guy that I want on my team more? If I can build the right team around him, I want this guy. I want this guy over Purdy. That's just how I feel. It's my opinion, and that's okay. Baker Mayfield. 40 touchdowns,
Yeah, I mean, I think after the last season, he can definitely well deserve.
And this is Baker Mayfield is making the money that I think Brock Purdy should be making, $33 million a year. So
yeah, no, and I want to, and you know this. I don't think they should have paid him $53 million a year. I don't think any quarterback should accept that kind of money because I think it's stupid. I think if you want to win, you should, take a little bit less than $50 million a year. I think you don't need that, but I like the 40 range for him personally. I think that Baker should be up in the 40s. I think that he earned the that type of contract after overcoming what he overcame. I mean, you had to start with the Browns. That's awful.
yeah,
and you could see the effects of that, and you clawed your way back. You played a little bit for the Rams, and then you got your chance with the Bucs and really kind of proved yourself. I think
absolutely.
That I could see that argument. But yeah, no, continue.
Yeah, absolutely. He's lost all faith in me after I said Bryce Young. I could see it in his eyes. By the way, I could see it in his eyes.
I don't. Okay, McDaniels, I'm fine with. Baker, I'm fine with.
CJ Stroud,
I'm fine with. All right. Bo Nix and Bryce Young is criminal.
No, I don't think it is. I don't. In fact, I am willing to bet anything that I have that in 3 or 4 years, when they get their contract extensions, if they keep playing as they're playing, they're going to be making more money than Brock Purdy is.
It's possible.
It will likely happen.
But I don't just.
There's an investment, right? Like I understand. Okay, you put their numbers side by side, sure. Maybe it doesn't stack up. But you watch, and you can't tell me Bo Nix would have gone 6-9 as a starter in San Francisco. And you also can't tell me that Brock Purdy would have gone 10-7 or 11-6 as the starter in Denver. That doesn't happen. That does not happen with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. I really don't think that that's the case. I think that it's an energy thing, right? Like Bo Nix brought a lot of energy to the team. Does Brock Purdy bring that same energy? I don't think so. I think about guys like that. Baker Mayfield's another guy. Like, part of Baker Mayfield's ability as a quarterback comes from the energy he brings to the field.
Right.
And not many people, if anybody, can match his energy.
Right, but what Brock Purdy brings is composure.
At what point did Bo Nix not prove to you to be composed?
When he was throwing in between men.
And
during the season, what do you mean? He was missing windows.
Okay,
I mean,
early on in the year?
Yeah.
That's what rookies do.
But that's my point. He's a rookie. You can't that's what you can't
Brock
take
Purdy's
that out
only Brock Purdy's only played, by the way, 16 games once. He didn't even play 16 games last year. Okay, and there's 17 games in a season. He's only played 16 games once, and it was the year before last. It was 2023. Last year he played 15, went 6-9. The year before he came in halfway through the season.
Okay,
like, you can't bring up a composure experience thing. Brothers only played
right, but we're
one
talking
full
about
season.
them now, though.
And I am talking about. I don't think there is a valid argument when it comes to experience in this particular argument, because Brock Purdy, 3 years, okay, cool. In 3 years, Bo Nix will be way better than Brock Purdy is, in my opinion. And I also think that if the Panthers can get their stuff together and build a team around Bryce Young, I think in 3 years, Bryce Young will be a better quarterback than Brock Purdy is. And and there can be arguments and arguments and arguments. Yeah, well, Bryce Young kind of sucks. Yeah, okay, Bryce Young did kind of suck. You're right. Bo Nix is a rookie. Yes, you're right. Bo Nix is a rookie. That is true. Right? But when you, I just can't, when I watch these guys play, and I watch them play, I can't see anything that Brock Purdy does that makes me want him more than Bo Nix. Makes me want him more than Bo Nix. Maybe I'm a superhero. I'm a superhero guy. I'm a obviously not a tax evasion Brett Favre, but I'm a quarterback Brett Favre guy. Like, I like guys that go out there, bring the energy, and throw the ball. And man, just maybe the Bryce Young pick is a little bit of heart. It's just a little bit of heart. Like seeing how disheartened that guy was, with his situation, and then coming back and finishing the season like he did. That doesn't show composure to you. He got benched. Have you seen the clip of him pulling up at practice and that dude asked him for an autograph and he just walks up all somber and depressed? He got benched. He lost his job. And then Andy Dalton, I'm glad he's okay, got into a car accident. He comes back in and he finishes the season the way he did. Does that not show composure to anybody?
Yeah,
I think a really good sign of composure is being able to take advantage of your second chance. And he did just that. He is the guy in Carolina. There's no argument anymore. There's no, I don't even think the way he finished the season, if you want to call him a bust because he wasn't as good as CJ Stroud was right out the gate, I understand. Bryce Young was supposed to be this top level talent, right away. But I don't think there can be an argument that, man, that kid bounced back, and that shows composure. And more importantly, it shows grit. It shows determination. It shows the willingness to work hard. I'm not saying Brock Purdy lacks those qualities. I'm just saying you can see it more in Bryce Young because of the situation. Because of the situation he was put in. Which is why I said when I watch Brock Purdy, I don't see anything that I see that makes him more valuable in my eyes than Bryce Young. Because Bryce Young showed me that he can do that. Can Brock Purdy do that? I don't know. Will Brock Purdy ever have to do that? Probably not if he's making $53 million a year. But I've seen it with Bryce Young. And I think that grit and determination is tight. That's my favorite. Anyway, these next few are kind of, right, like, duh, of course these guys should be making more money than Bryce Young. Pat Mahomes isn't making as much money. Not Bryce Young, sorry. Brock Purdy. Pat Mahomes isn't making as much money as Brock Purdy on a yearly salary basis, of course.
Yeah, but that's just like, that's because he signed a 10-year
Jalen Hurts
contract.
Isn't making as much money as Brock Purdy. Lamar Jackson isn't making as much money as Brock Purdy. Justin Herbert only threw 3 interceptions last year in the regular season. He may have thrown 3 interceptions in the playoff game, but
in one game.
We just talked about this with Bo Nix. Okay, I got an affliction for somebody with a bazooka attached to their arm.
Yeah,
all right, and Justin Herbert has that ability.
A bazooka that goes wild whenever the playoffs come around.
You know what, man?
Yeah, Dak Prescott out here, bro.
Yeah, I prefer to have Justin Herbert than Dak Prescott.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
At least if you're gonna go down in the playoffs, it'll be an electric heap of fire.
And then to round out this list that I believe for a general consensus, I probably shot 60% on, 50% on. I'm sure there's some picks in there where people are like, okay, chill, dude. You're just like your father. Yeah. All right, inside joke. I'm not going to get too deep into that one. You're just like your father, okay? No. So, however, to round it out, Jared Goff makes the same amount of money as Brock Purdy.
I can accept all those veterans. I can even accept Justin Herbert with the argument that they should be making more than Brock Purdy, not that they should be making $50 million, because I don't think
absolutely
should be. But
and again, to clarify, and I feel like maybe, and even if I'm not being misunderstood, there are some controversial picks in there, and I know that, and I'm okay with that. I do not care. These aren't just players that they're not necessarily. I think they should be making more money than Brock Purdy. It's if I were to have to buy a quarterback for my team, these are the quarterbacks I would rather have than Brock Purdy. And that's the thing. That's right. It all comes down to, how do you want to build your team? Well, maybe I want to build my team around the guy that's been to 2 NFC championship games and won one. That's fair. I want to build my team around a guy that I have seen heart and composure. And I'm really trying to sell you on this Bryce Young thing, and it's not working.
It's not working.
But I don't care. That's the truth. I would rather build my team around a guy that I've seen your entire world come crashing down around you. And then I saw you come out and throw 1,500 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns.
Right, and that's great. But that's great for this season. If he comes out and only throws 2,500, 3,000 yards for the entire season,
we're having a different conversation. Right.
But I think that we need to wait and see how that happens, because
brother, I can't wait and see. I'm starting my franchise tomorrow. And this is my bubble. This is the bubble and if if I start this franchise and I get Bryce Young on my team, and Bryce Young is a dud, and he just had a good 10-week stretch, and he's never good again, and Brock Purdy goes on and makes the Hall of Fame, I'll accept my loss. But at the end of the day, this is in a bubble. This is what I saw, and this is what I value more. This is what I saw, and this is what I value more. And I value the qualities that I see out of Bryce Young more than the qualities that I see out of Brock Purdy.
I'm really glad that this is public and online, so we get to come back to this later on. We're gonna do episodes and we're gonna pull clips. I think the Bo Nix one and Bryce Young is crazy. Everything else isn't that bad, but
and you know what? I'm definitely in the minority. I think I'm fully prepared that as soon as this goes up, to get absolutely shattered by 98% of the internet community, and I do not care. They're going to sit there, oh, this guy's an idiot. Yeah, maybe I am. All right, but I'm an idiot that loves watching a guy that's got a big heart play football. All right, and I'm an idiot that loves watching a guy with a big arm play football. Okay, I may be an idiot, but I'm an idiot that loves love. And Bryce Young loves the game. He's got the most infectious smile. I find myself getting like butterflies when I see that man smile. I'm like, man, it's such an infectious smile. I just want to smile with him. He's got such a, it's the personality, man. And I will fully admit that maybe that pick is a little more emotional than it is technical. That pick is definitely a little bit more emotional than it is technical.
Emotional.
Right, but this wasn't a statistical breakdown and analysis, which I'm normally the guy for that.
Yeah,
I'm normally the guy for that. That's not what this was. This was what I value more in quarterbacks and the quarterbacks I would rather have on my team if I were starting a team tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We got 3 months before training and then preseason and all that. No, I think that's good. Yep, it's exciting stuff. We got Nuggets and Thunder tomorrow. Then the continuation of the playoffs. We have the draft coming up. Cooper Flag should be going to the Mavs. We'll see if anything happens with that.
Daniel Jones MVP season on the Indianapolis Colts, baby. Let's ride.
That's great.
Not really. That's a joke.
I don't know if I see, if you wouldn't have said that's a joke, I might have believed you after this stuff right here.
Whatever, man.
Oh my goodness. The Maine take. I'm Evan here with Chris.
And we will see you next time, unless the internet people cause me to run into a hole and hide for the rest of my life because I like Bryce Young more than Brock Purdy.
Oh my goodness.